The silence was the worst part. 8-year-old Hannah Kim pressed her small hands against her ears, but she could still hear it. The terrible quiet where thousands of voices used to be. The colony ship New Seoul had been her home for as long as she could remember. Now it was just twisted metal and broken dreams. Scattered across the red dirt of an alien world, Hannah crawled through a gap in the ship's hull, her clothes torn and dirty. Her left arm hurt where a piece of metal had cut it, but she was alive. She did not understand why she was the only one left. The other children from her school group were gone. Teacher Minji was gone. Even the captain who used to give her candy was gone. The sky above was wrong. Instead of blue, it was a sickly yellow color with 2 suns burning in it. Strange purple clouds drifted across the horizon, and the air smelled like burnt plastic and something else she could not name, death maybe. She had never smelled death before, but she thought this might be what it was like. All around her, the battlefield stretched as far as she could see. Ships from dozens of different worlds lay broken and burning. Some were huge, bigger than city blocks. Others were small and sleek like the racing ships she had seen in videos. All of them were dead now, killed by the same enemy that had destroyed her home. Hannah knew about the war. The grown-ups had tried to keep it secret, but children always found out about these things. The Vorthic Empire was spreading across the galaxy like a disease, destroying everything in its path. They were cruel and powerful, and they hated every other living thing. The Galactic Confederation had tried to stop them, but it looked like they had failed. She walked carefully between the wreckage, looking for anything useful. Her emergency pack had some food and water, but not much. She would need to find more if she wanted to survive. The problem was that she did not know how to survive on an alien world. She was just a little girl who was good at math and liked to draw pictures of stars. As she climbed over a pile of debris, something caught her eye. It was huge and dark, partially buried under the remains of a massive warship. At first, she thought it might be part of the ship itself, but then she saw it move. Just a little bit like breathing. Hannah moved closer, her heart beating fast. The thing was enormous, easily as big as a school bus. Its skin was deep purple with silver markings that seemed to glow faintly in the strange light. She could see. Now that it had wings, though they were torn and broken. One of them was pinned under a piece of the crashed ship. It was some kind of dragon. She had seen pictures of dragons in her storybooks, but those were just pretend. This one was real. And it was hurt badly. Dark blood pooled around its body, and its breathing was shallow and weak. She could see several deep wounds along its side where enemy weapons had found their mark. The dragon's eyes opened as she approached. They were golden like liquid metal, and they held an intelligence that made her catch her breath. This was not just an animal. This was a person, just in a different shape. "Hello," Hannah said softly. She spoke in Korean first, then tried English. The dragon's eyes focused on her, and she saw surprise there. The dragon's mouth opened, and words came out. Not sounds like an animal would make, but real words in a language she somehow understood. "Child, you should not be here. This place is dangerous." "I know," Hannah said, "but I do not have anywhere else to go." "Everyone else is dead." The dragon studied her for a long moment. "You are human, one of the young ones. How did you survive?" "When your warriors could not," Hannah shrugged. "I was hiding in the supply room when the attack started. The ship crashed, and when I woke up, everyone was gone. Are you going to die?" The question was simple and direct, the way children ask things. The dragon made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been so sad. "Yes, young one, I am dying. My name is Thyrasith, and I am the last of my kind. The Drakomori have flown among the stars for 10,000 years, but now we are no more." "I am Hannah," she said. "And you are not the last anymore, because I found you. Maybe I can help you get better." Thyrasith's golden eyes widened. "You would help me? But you do not even know me. I am not of your species." "So what?" Hannah asked. "You are hurt and alone. I am hurt and alone too. Maybe we can be less alone together." She pulled her small medical kit from her pack. It was just basic supplies, the kind every child carried for emergencies. Bandages, antiseptic, pain medicine. Nothing that could really help with wounds like these, but she had to try. "This might sting," she said, just like the school nurse. Always did. She began cleaning the smallest of the dragon's wounds, the one on his front leg. Her hands were steady, even though she was scared. Thyrasith watched her work in amazement. In all his long life he had never seen anything like this. Humans were supposed to be a lesser species. The Confederation used them as workers and soldiers. But they were considered barely above animals by most galactic standards. Yet this small human child was risking her own safety to help him, a stranger from another world. "You have a good heart, little Hannah," he said. "Perhaps there is more too. Your species than the galaxy believes?" "My mom always said that being kind does not cost anything," Hannah replied, carefully applying a bandage. "And my dad said that helping others is what makes us human. Your parents were wise." "Where are they now?" Hannah's hands stopped moving for a moment. "They died 2 years ago. Sickness. I was living with my aunt on the colony ship, but she is gone now too." "Then we are both orphans," Thyrasith said gently. "Both alone in a hostile universe." "Not alone," Hannah corrected him. "We have each other now." As she worked, something strange began to happen. The dragon's wounds seemed to be healing a little faster than they should. Not much, but enough to notice. And Hannah felt stronger, more alert than she had since the crash. She did not understand what was happening, but she could feel a connection forming between them, like invisible threads linking her heart to his. "Remarkable," Thyrasith whispered. "I have heard legends of such things, but I never thought they were real." "What things?" Hannah asked. "Bonds between souls. Connections that cross the boundaries between species. The Drakmori have always been able to form such bonds, but never with humans. Your people were thought to be too different, too." "Simple?" "Well, maybe your people were wrong," Hannah said with a small smile. "Maybe we are not as simple as everyone thinks." Thyrasith looked at this brave little girl who had found him in his darkest hour and offered him hope. Perhaps the universe still had surprises to offer. Perhaps there was still a chance for both of them to find a new purpose in the ruins of their old lives. "Yes," he said slowly. "Perhaps they were wrong about many things." As the alien suns began to set, painting the battlefield in shades of orange and red, Hannah curled up next to the great dragon's warm side. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new challenges. But tonight, neither of them had to face the darkness alone. The galaxy had written off both of their species as finished. But in the wreckage of a great battle, something new was beginning. Something that would change the fate of every living thing among the stars. 3 days had passed since Hannah found Thyrasith among the wreckage. The dragon's wounds were healing much faster now, though he was still too weak to fly. During the long hours, he had been teaching her about the galaxy and its history. Much of what he told her was nothing like what the human teachers had said. "Your species is very young," Thyrasith explained as they shared water from Hannah's dwindling supply. "Humans have only been traveling between stars for a few hundred years. Most other races have been doing it for thousands." "Is that why everyone thinks we are stupid?" Hannah asked. She had noticed how the other species in the Confederation treated humans, like they were useful pets rather than equals. "Not stupid, little one. Just inexperienced. The galaxy is old and has many rules. Most species learn these rules slowly, over many generations. Humans arrived quickly and did not follow the old ways." Hannah frowned. "What old ways?" Thyrasith's golden eyes grew distant. "The Drakmori were among the first to travel the stars. We learned to work with other species, to share knowledge and power. But we also learned to form bonds with those we trusted. Soul bonds. They allowed us to share our life force, our memories, our strength." "Like what happened with us?" Hannah asked. "Yes, but stronger. A true bond can save a dying person or give power to someone who needs it. The Drakmori use these bonds to help other species grow and learn. We were teachers, guardians, friends to many worlds. What happened to your people?" The dragon's great head lowered. "We grew old. Our species lived for thousands of years, but we had few children. One by one we faded away. I thought I was the last until I met you. Hannah touched his wounded wing gently. You said other species could not make bonds with you. Why am I different? I do not know. For a bond to work, both souls must be open and willing. They must trust each other completely. Most species have minds that are too rigid, too afraid, but you. He paused, looking at her with wonder. You have no fear. You saw me, a creature from your nightmares, and you wanted to help. That is very rare. A distant sound made them both freeze. The whine of engines in the sky? Hannah peered through a gap in the wreckage and saw dark shapes moving across the yellow sky. Vorthek patrol ships searching for survivors. They are coming back, she whispered. Yes, they always return to make sure nothing lives. We must leave this place, but I am too weak to carry you far. Hannah made a decision. Then we need to make the bond stronger. You said it could give power to someone who needs it. You need it now. Theresa stared at her. Child, you do not understand. A true soul bond is permanent. It means our lives become connected forever. If one dies, the other feels great pain. If one is hurt, the other suffers too. And it changes both of us. You would never be fully human. Again, good, Hannah said firmly. Being human has not worked out very well for me so far. Everyone I care about is dead. My whole species is treated like slaves. Maybe it is time to try something different. The patrol ships were getting closer. Their sensors would find them soon? Thyresith looked at this brave little girl who was willing to give up her humanity to save them both. In all his long life he had never met anyone with such courage. Very well, he said. But know this, Hannah Kim. Once we do this, there is no going back. You will become something new. Something the galaxy has never seen before. I understand, she said, though she really did not. She only knew that she trusted him. And that staying here meant death for both of them. Therasith placed his great clawed hand over her small one. Close your eyes and open your heart. Think of everything you are, everything you hope to be. Let me see your soul, and I will show you mine. Hannah did as he asked. At first, nothing happened. Then she felt a warm sensation, like sunlight on her skin. But this light was coming from inside her, growing brighter and stronger. She could feel Thyresith's presence in her mind, ancient and wise and sad. He had seen the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars, but he was also curious about her. In her mind, she felt his amazement at human emotions, at the way she could feel such strong love and loyalty even after losing everything. He saw her memories of her parents, her life on the colony ship, her determination to survive. And he was impressed. The bond deepened. Hannah felt knowledge flowing into her mind. Languages from across the galaxy, star charts, the history of worlds she had never seen. She learned about ancient technologies, about the secrets of space travel, about weapons and ships and the politics of star empires, but more than knowledge, she felt power. Her body was changing, becoming stronger and faster. Her senses expanded until she could hear the patrol ship's engines clearly, could smell the fierce scent of small animals hiding in the wreckage. Her injured arm stopped hurting as the wound healed completely. Thyresith was changing too. The bond was stabilizing his life force, healing his wounds with energy borrowed from her young, strong spirit. His broken wing began to mend, and his golden eyes blazed with renewed fire. It is done, he said, his voice filled with wonder. You are no longer just human, little one. You are something new. Something that should not exist according to all the laws of nature. Hannah opened her eyes and gasped. She could see energy. Patterns around everything, flowing streams of light that connected all living things. The world looked different now, more real and vivid than before. She felt like she had been half asleep her whole life and was finally waking up. I can feel you, she whispered. Inside my mind, it does not hurt. Nor should it. We are one now, two souls sharing one destiny. Your courage has saved us both. The patrol ships were very close now, but Thyresith was strong enough to move. He stood slowly, his great bulk casting a shadow over the small girl who had become his bond sister. Come, he said. I know where. There is a ship. The Drakmori built secret bases throughout the galaxy. One is not far from here. Hannah climbed onto his back, feeling perfectly safe despite the great height. The bond told her that he would never let her fall. As they moved through the wreckage toward the hidden base, she felt a strange sense of completion. For the first time since the attack, she was not alone. Behind them, the Vorthek ships continued their search. They would find nothing but empty ruins. The last dragon and the first human-dragon bond were already gone, disappearing into the vast galaxy like a legend come to life. The universe was about to discover that some rules were meant to be broken. 5 years had passed since the day Hannah and Thyrisith escaped the battlefield. The scared little girl was gone, replaced by a young woman who moved like a warrior and thought like a general. At 13, she had already saved more lives than most soldiers did in their entire careers. The ship Dragon's Breath hung in the shadow of a dead moon, its hull scarred from dozens of battles. Inside, the crew prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. The Vorthek had built a fortress on the planet Grimhold, where they were doing terrible experiments on captured humans. "Are you sure about this, Stormbird?" asked Jiwan Park, the ship's chief engineer. She was a thin woman with steady hands and worried eyes. The Vorthak had kept her in their minds for 3 years before Hannah rescued her. She still had nightmares about the dark tunnels. Hannah studied the holographic display showing Grimhold's defenses. The name Stormbird had come from the resistance fighters who told stories about a human girl who could move like lightning and strike like thunder. She wore simple, black clothes and carried weapons that seemed too big for her small frame, but the bond with Thyrisith had given her strength that surprised everyone. "The intelligence is good," she said. Minho confirmed it himself. Minho Lee nodded from the pilot's seat. He was only 16, but he flew like he was born among the stars. His whole family had died in the first wave of Vorthak attacks, and he had been living wild on a destroyed world when Hannah found him. Now he was the best pilot in the Resistance. "I saw the transport ships," he said. "They are bringing in humans from all over this sector. Whatever they are doing in there, it is big." The rest of the crew gathered around the planning table. They were an unlikely family, brought together by loss and held together by hope. Rax was a huge warrior from the Gorlani homeworld, his blue skin covered in ritual scars. His people had been warriors for thousands of years, but even they had fallen to the Vorthik war machine. Zena, the ship's technician, was from the Sithari. Her people were known for their brilliant minds and their ability to work with any technology. She had built most of the ship's special equipment, including the weapons that could punch through Vorthik armor. The strangest member of their crew was Korth, a former Vorthak officer who had turned against his own people. He was tall and pale, with the black eyes that all Vorthak shared. Most people could not stand to look at him, but Hannah had seen the guilt and pain in his mind when she rescued him from a Vorthak prison. "The fortress has 3 levels, Korth explained, his voice quiet and careful. "The surface level is for guards and supplies. The middle level is where they keep the prisoners. The bottom level is where they do their experiments." "What kind of experiments?" asked Thyrisith. The great dragon's voice filled the room, though his body was too large to fit inside the ship. He communicated through the bond he shared with Hannah, and she spoke his words when needed. Korth's black eyes grew darker. "They are trying to understand why humans can resist our mind control technology. Most species fall under our influence easily, but humans are different. They fight back in ways we do not understand." Hannah felt a chill run down her spine. "They are trying to turn that resistance into a weapon. Yes, if they succeed, they could create shields that protect their leaders from any psychic attack. Or, worse, they could make weapons that turn human resistance into a tool for controlling other species." The plan was simple but dangerous. Minho would fly the ship in fast and low, avoiding the orbital defenses. Hannah and Rax would assault the main entrance while Zena and Korth disabled the security systems. Jiwan would stay with the ship to provide covering fire and prepare for a quick escape. "Remember," Hannah said as they prepared to leave, "we are not just here to rescue prisoners. We need to find out what they have learned and destroy their research." This technology cannot be allowed to exist. The attack began at dawn. The dragon's breath dropped out of hyperspace like a falling star, its weapons blazing. The fortress's defense towers tried to track the fast-moving ship, but Minho was too skilled. He danced between their shots, giving the assault team time to reach the ground. Hannah hit the fortress walls like a force of nature. The bond with Thyrasith had given her abilities that no normal human possessed. She could move faster than the eye could follow. Her strength was equal to a dozen men, and her senses could detect enemies through solid walls. Behind her, Rax fought with the fury of his warrior ancestors. His massive warhammer crushed Vorthak, armor like paper, and his battle cry echoed through the corridors. The defenders had expected a small raid, not a full assault by two of the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy. They fought their way down to the prison level, where they found something that made even Hannah's enhanced senses real. Hundreds of humans were kept in small cells, their minds dulled by Vorthak drugs, but these were not normal prisoners. They were all children, some as young as 6 years old. Why children? Hannah asked, though she already feared the answer. Young minds are easier to study, Korth said, his voice filled with shame, and easier to break. The Vorthak believe that if they can understand how human resistance develops, they can prevent it from forming. The rescue became a race against time. While Rax and Hannah fought off waves of Vorthak guards, Zena worked to free the prisoners and copy the research data. What she found in the computers was worse than any of them had imagined. The Vorthak had not just been studying human resistance. They had been trying to create artificial humans, beings that looked like people but had minds that could be controlled. They wanted to replace humanity entirely, creating a slave race that would serve them willingly. We have to destroy this place, Hannah said, watching the freed children stumble toward the escape routes. Many of them were too weak to walk, their bodies damaged by months of experimentation. Already working on it, Zena replied, her 6-fingered hands dancing over the control panels. I have overloaded their power systems. This whole place will be gone in 10 minutes. The evacuation was a nightmare. Too many prisoners, not enough time, and Vorthak reinforcements arriving every minute. Hannah found herself making impossible choices, deciding who could be saved and who would have to be left behind. In the end, they rescued nearly 200 people, most of them children. The dragon's breath was packed beyond capacity as they fled into hyperspace, the fortress exploding behind them like a dying star, but the victory felt hollow. The data they had stolen revealed the true scope of the Vorthak plan. They were not just conquering the galaxy. They were trying to remake it in their image, with themselves as the only truly free species. This changes everything, Hannah said, as she looked at the rescued children. They were all human, all young, all damaged by what had been done to them. But in their eyes, she saw something the Vorthak had not expected to find. Anger, not the blind rage of animals, but the cold fury of beings who had been wronged and would not forget. What do you mean? Asked Juwan. The Vorthak think they understand human resistance, Hannah replied, but they only know about the kind that fights back against control. They do not know about the kind that adapts and grows stronger. She looked at the data they had stolen, at the research that revealed so much about her own species. The Vorthak had been right about one thing: humans were different. But they had been wrong about why. It was not just resistance to mind control. It was something deeper, something that went back to the very beginning of human history. The ability to change, to learn, to become something new when the old ways were not enough. As the dragon's breath carried its cargo of refugees toward the nearest safe harbor, Hannah began to understand what she had to do. The Vorthak had made a mistake by studying humanity so closely. They had given her the keys to understanding what her people truly were, and with that understanding, she could begin to unlock the potential that had been sleeping in every human soul since the dawn of time. The ancient world of Ethros had been dead for 1,000,000 years, but its secrets were still buried in the ruins of its cities. Hannah and Thyrasith walked through the empty streets, following a map they had found in the stolen Vorthak data. The Dragon's massive form cast long shadows in the light of the dying red sun. "The Vorthic records mention this place," Hannah said, checking her scanner. "They called it the Library of First Things. If it really exists, it might have answers about why humans are so different." The bond between them had grown stronger over the years. Hannah could feel Phyrus's ancient memories mixing with her own, giving her knowledge that no human had ever possessed. But even the dragon's vast experience had not prepared them for what they found in the heart of the dead city. The library was a crystal structure that seemed to grow from the ground like a living thing. Its walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly, writing that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. The building itself was intact, protected by technology that had survived longer than most civilizations. "I know this place," Theresis said, his mental voice filled with wonder. "The Drakmori have legends about it. It was built by the first ones, the species that came before all others." Inside, the library was vast beyond imagining. Walls of crystal, stretched up into darkness, each one containing millions of records. The air hummed with ancient power, and Hannah could feel something watching them from the shadows. They found what they were looking for in the deepest level of the library. A chamber filled with images and sounds that told the story of the galaxy's beginning. What they learned changed everything they thought they knew about life itself. The first ones had not just lived in the galaxy. They had created it, seeding empty worlds with life and guiding the evolution of countless species. They were beings of pure energy, able to take any form they chose. For billions of years, they had been the gardeners of creation, nurturing life wherever they found it, but something had gone wrong. The first ones had grown tired of their endless task, and they had made a choice that would echo through eternity. Instead of continuing to guide evolution directly, they had decided to create a species that could carry on their work. A species that would have the same adaptability, the same potential for growth and change. "Humans," Hannah whispered, watching the images play out on the crystal walls. "They made us to be like them." The truth was more complex than that. The first ones had not created humans directly. Instead, they had planted seeds of their own essence in the genetic code of early primates on a distant world called Earth. These seeds would remain dormant for millions of years, waiting for the right conditions to awaken. The awakening was supposed to happen gradually over thousands of generations. But the galaxy had changed in ways the first ones had not expected. War and conflict had spread across the stars, forcing evolution to speed up. The dormant seeds in human DNA were beginning to activate much earlier than planned. "This is why the Vorthic fear us," Phyrus said, his mental voice filled with understanding. "They can sense what we are becoming, even if we do not realize it ourselves." The records showed that other species had tried to carry the first one's legacy, but all had failed. The Drakmori had come closest, developing their ability to form bonds with other species. But even they had been limited by their physical forms and their ancient traditions. Humans were different. They had no fixed nature, no predetermined path. They could become anything, adapt to any environment, form connections with any species that would accept them. The bond between Hannah and Phyrusith was proof of that potential. "But why now?" Hannah asked. "Why are humans starting to change at this moment in history?" The answer came from the deepest part of the library, in records that even the first ones had thought too dangerous to preserve. The seeds in human DNA were not just waiting for time to pass. They were waiting for a crisis that would force the species to evolve or die. The Vorthic invasion was that crisis. By threatening to destroy or enslave humanity, they had triggered the awakening that was always meant to happen. Every human who had been exposed to extreme stress, who had faced death and chosen to fight back, was beginning to change. The children they had rescued from Grimhold were the first generation of true awakened humans. The experiments the Vorthic had performed on them had not broken their resistance. It had made them stronger. Each one carried the potential to become something that had never existed before. "We have to find them," Hannah said. thinking of the young faces she had seen in the rescue ships. We have to help them understand what they are becoming. But first, they had to survive the knowledge they had gained. The library's guardians were awakening ancient machines that had been programmed to protect the First One's secrets. They had allowed Hana and Thyrisith to learn the truth, but they would not allow them to leave with it. The battle was unlike anything either of them had experienced. The Guardians were not just machines. They were fragments of the First One's consciousness, given form and purpose. They fought with weapons that could reshape reality itself, turning the library into a maze of shifting walls and impossible angles. Hannah found herself using abilities she had never known she possessed. The bond with Thyrisith was only the beginning. She could feel connections forming with the very structure of the library, with the ancient power that flowed through its crystal walls. She was becoming something new, something that existed between human and dragon and machine. The fight ended when she touched the library's central core, a crystal that contained the last conscious fragment of the First Ones. The ancient being spoke to her in a voice like wind through empty space. "You are not ready," it said. "The knowledge you seek will destroy you if you take it now, but the time of awakening cannot be stopped. Your species will change, whether you guide it or not." "Then teach me," Hannah said. "Show me how to help them become what they are meant to be." The First One's fragment considered this, its ancient mind weighing possibilities across vast spans of time. Finally it spoke again. "Very well. But know this, the path you choose will make you responsible for the fate of every human who follows. You will become their teacher, their guide, their hope. And if you fail, your species will become something terrible instead of something wonderful." The knowledge flowed into Hana's mind like fire, burning away everything she had been and replacing it with something larger and more complex. She saw the true potential of humanity, the thousands of different paths they could take as they evolved beyond their current limitations. She also saw the dangers. Without proper guidance, awakened humans could become tyrants worse than the Vorthak, or they could lose themselves entirely in the power they gained. The responsibility was overwhelming, but she accepted it because she had to. When they finally left the library, Hannah was no longer the same person who had entered. She carried within her the wisdom of the First Ones, the knowledge of what humanity could become, and the terrible burden of making sure it happened the right way. "Are you ready for this?" Thyrisith asked as they returned to their ship. Hannah looked at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them were the awakened children who would become the foundation of a new kind of human civilization. The galaxy was about to change in ways that no one could imagine, and she was the only one who could guide that change. "I have to be," she said. "The future of every living thing depends on it." The age of awakening had begun, and humanity was about to discover what it truly meant to be the inheritors of the First One's legacy. The resistance base on Sanctuary Station buzzed with activity as hundreds of awakened humans gathered for the first time in galactic history. Hannah stood in the main assembly hall, watching as her students demonstrated abilities that should have been impossible. Solman Choi could move objects with her mind, lifting cargo containers that weighed tons. Taeyeon Kim could see through solid walls and predict enemy movements minutes before they happened. "You are doing well," Thyrisith said through their bond. The great dragon was too large to fit inside the station, so he remained on their ship. But his presence filled Hannah's mind with warmth and strength. "They are learning fast," she replied, watching as a young woman named Yuna Park practiced healing wounds with nothing but her touch. "Maybe too fast. I'm worried about what will happen when the Confederation sees what we have become." Her fears were justified. Word of the awakened humans had spread through the resistance networks, and the Galactic Confederation had finally agreed to meet with their representatives. But the meeting was not going well. Chancellor Vexta, the leader of the Confederation's ruling council, was a tall, thin being from the hegemony species. His people had been the dominant force in galactic politics for thousands of years, and they did not like the idea of humans as equals. "These displays of power are impressive," Vexta said, his voice cold and formal. but they do not change the fundamental nature of your species. Humans are still young, still inexperienced in the ways of galactic civilization. You would serve better as soldiers under our command than as independent allies? Hannah felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. With respect, Chancellor, the old ways of doing things have led us to this point. The Vorthak are winning because we keep fighting them the same way. Maybe it is time to try something different. Different? Vexta's 4 eyes fixed on her with what might have been amusement. You mean allowing primitives to lead civilized beings into battle? I think not. The insult hit home, but Hannah had learned to control her emotions. The awakening had given her power, but it had also given her wisdom. She knew that losing her temper would only prove Vexta's point. We are not asking to lead, she said. We are asking to be partners. To fight beside you as equals, not servants. Equality must be earned, Vexta replied. And your species has not existed long enough to earn anything. You will accept our terms, or you will face the Vorthak alone? The negotiations continued for hours, but it was clear that the Confederation would not budge. They saw the awakened humans as useful tools, nothing more. When Hannah finally walked out of the meeting, she knew that the resistance was truly on its own. That night, she gathered her closest advisors in the command center. The faces around the table were grim, but determined. These were the people who had followed her through 5 years of desperate battles, who had believed in her vision of a better future. So what do we do now? Asked Jiwan, her engineering skills more valuable than ever as they prepared for the battles ahead. We show them what we are really capable of, Hannah said. The Confederation thinks we are just humans with a few new tricks. They have no idea what we have actually become. Minho, now the commander of their small fleet, leaned forward. The intelligence reports say the Vorthak are massing for a major offensive. If they hit us here, we are finished. Then we do not wait for them to hit us, Hannah replied. We hit them first? The plan was ambitious beyond anything they had attempted before. Instead of running and hiding, they would attack the Vorthak stronghold of Nexus Prime, the fortress world that coordinated all enemy operations in this sector. It was supposed to be impossible to breach, protected by shields that could withstand the firepower of entire fleets, but the awakened humans were not a fleet. They were something new, something the Vorthak had never faced before. And Hannah had an idea that might just work. The attack began 3 days later. As the Confederation forces prepared their own defenses, expecting the Vorthak to strike at any moment, Hannah and her people launched their assault on the enemy's heart. The Dragon's Breath led a small fleet of captured Vorthak ships, modified by Zena's brilliant engineering. They dropped out of hyperspace right on top of Nexus Prime, moving too fast for the orbital defenses to track. But this was not a normal attack. Instead of trying to break through the shields, the awakened humans went through them. Hannah and her strike team teleported directly onto the fortress world surface, using abilities that no scanner could detect. They moved like ghosts through the enemy base, their enhanced senses allowing them to avoid patrols and security systems. The battle for Nexus Prime was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The awakened humans fought with abilities that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Soman threw enemy soldiers through solid walls with the power of her mind. Taeyun moved through the fortress like he could see the future, always one step ahead of the defenders, but the real surprise came when they reached the command center. The Vorthak commanders were waiting for them, confident in their ability to control any enemy through their psychic powers. What they found instead was a group of humans who were completely immune to mental domination. Impossible, hissed General Shkath, the Vorthak military leader. Our mind control works on all species. It is the foundation of our power. Not anymore, Hannah said, advancing on the general with her weapon drawn. We have evolved beyond your ability to control us, and we are going to teach the rest of the galaxy to do the same. The capture of Nexus Prime sent shockwaves through both the Vorthak Empire and the Galactic Confederation. A small force of awakened humans had accomplished what entire fleets had failed to do. They had proven that the Vorthok were not invincible, that their mind control could be overcome, but the victory came at a cost. The Vorthok response was swift and brutal. Within hours of losing their fortress, they launched a massive counterattack against Sanctuary Station. The battle was fierce, with both sides throwing everything they had into the fight. The Confederation forces, caught between their desire to see the humans defeated and their need to survive the Vorthok assault, made a choice that would haunt them forever. They withdrew from the battle, leaving the awakened humans to face the enemy alone. "Cowards!" Minho spat as he watched the Confederation ships retreat. "They would rather see us destroyed than admit they were wrong." But Hana was not watching the retreating ships. She was focused on the massive Vorthok fleet bearing down on them, its weapons charging for a final, devastating assault. The station's shields were failing and they had nowhere to run. "All ships, prepare for ramming speed," she ordered. "If we are going to die, we will take as many of them with us as we can." The awakened humans responded with a battle cry that echoed through the void. They had been abandoned by their supposed allies, outnumbered by their enemies, and faced with certain death. But they were not afraid. They were human. And humans did not give up. The battle that followed would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy learned what it truly meant to underestimate humanity. The awakened humans fought with a fury that terrified even the Vorthok, using abilities that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. When the smoke cleared, both fleets were in ruins. But the Vorthok had learned something important. These humans were not like the others. They were something new, something dangerous, something that could not be controlled or conquered. The age of human awakening had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The captured Vorthok admiral sat in chains aboard the Dragon's Breath, his black eyes filled with something Hana had never seen before in his species: fear. Admiral Shkath had been the terror of a dozen star systems, but now he was just a prisoner watching his empire crumble. "You do not understand what you have done," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Void Gate is not just a weapon. It is the key to our survival. Without it, my people will die." Hana studied the tactical displays that showed the massive structure hanging in deep space. The Void Gate was larger than most moons, its dark metal surface covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. According to the intelligence they had gathered, it was the ultimate expression of Vorthok technology, a weapon that could drain the life force from entire star systems. "Your people are dying anyway," she said. "You have been so focused on conquest that you have forgotten how to live. The gate will not save you. It will only destroy everything else." Through their bond, she felt Thyresus' ancient wisdom mixing with her own thoughts. The dragon had seen empires rise and fall, had watched species destroy themselves in pursuit of power. The Vorthok were following the same path as so many others before them. "The weapon is powered by captured psychics," Shkath continued. "Drakmori, awakened humans, even some of our own people who developed unwanted abilities. They are all connected to the gate, their life force being slowly drained to fuel its power." The revelation hit Hana like a physical blow. She had been wondering why so many of the awakened humans had simply disappeared over the past few months. Now she knew they had been captured and turned into living batteries for the Vorthok's ultimate weapon. "How many?" she asked. "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The gate needs enormous amounts of psychic energy to function. When it fires, it will kill them all, but the energy released will be enough to sterilize every inhabited world in this galaxy." Hana felt sick. The scope of the Vorthok plan was beyond anything she had imagined. They were not just trying to conquer the galaxy. They were preparing to empty it of all life except themselves. "There has to be a way to stop it," she said. His laugh was bitter. "The only way to stop the gate is to reverse its polarity, to turn the energy flow back on itself. But that would require someone to manually access the core systems while the weapon is charging. It would be suicide." But Hana was already thinking, her mind racing through possibilities. The bond with Thyresus had taught her that sometimes the impossible was just another word for difficult. And she had learned something else from the ancient dragon. that some sacrifices were worth making. What if someone could survive the energy drain? She asked. What if they were strong enough to channel the power instead of being destroyed by it? The Admiral stared at her. Impossible. No living being could withstand that much psychic energy. It would tear them apart on a molecular level. Not one being, Hannah said slowly. But what about many beings, all connected, all sharing the load? She was thinking of the bond she shared with Tharisith, of how it had made them both stronger. What if that principle could be extended? What if all the awakened humans could link together, creating a network of shared consciousness that could handle the gate's terrible power? The plan that formed in her mind was desperate and dangerous, but it was the only chance they had. She would lead a strike team to the Void Gate, while the combined fleets of the Resistance and the Confederation attacked its defenses. Once inside, the awakened humans would link their minds together and attempt to reverse the weapon's polarity. The risk was enormous. If they failed, the gate would fire and destroy everything. If they succeeded but could not handle the power, they would all die in the attempt. But if they did nothing, the galaxy would die anyway. You are insane, Shikath said when she explained the plan. Even if you could reach the core, even if you could reverse the polarity, the backlash would destroy your minds. You would become vegetables, assuming you survived at all. Maybe, Hannah said. But at least we would die trying to save others instead of trying to destroy them. The final battle began 3 days later. Every ship in the Resistance fleet, every Confederation vessel that could be spared, every free captain who was willing to fight converged on the Void Gate. The Vorthak responded with their own massive fleet, determined to protect their ultimate weapon. The space battle was the largest in galactic history. Thousands of ships clashed in the void while fighters swarmed between them like angry insects. The Void Gate itself began to charge, its dark surface glowing with malevolent energy as the captured psychic's life force was drained to power it. Through it all, the Dragon's Breath and a small fleet of fast ships raced toward their target. Minho piloted with skill that bordered on the supernatural, weaving between enemy fire and debris from destroyed vessels. G1 had modified their shields to resist psychic energy, but no one knew if it would be enough. That they reached the gate just as its charging cycle entered the final phase. The structure was massive beyond imagination, its corridors stretching for kilometers in every direction. The awakened humans split into teams, each one racing toward a different access point while Hannah and Teresith headed for the central core. The inside of the gate was a nightmare. Thousands of beings hung in suspension chambers, their minds linked to the weapon's power systems. Hannah could feel their pain, their terror, their desperate hope for rescue. Many of them were humans, including some of the children they had saved from Grimhold years before. We have to free them, she said, but Theresa's mental voice was gentle but firm. There is no time, little sister. The weapon will fire in minutes. We must reach the core now, or everyone dies. The central chamber was a vast sphere filled with crackling energy. At its heart was a crystalline structure that pulsed with the stolen life force of the captured psychics. The air itself burned with power, and Hannah could feel her enhanced abilities struggling against the overwhelming psychic pressure. Link with me, she said to the other awakened humans who had made it this far. Soman, Taeyun, Yuna, and a dozen others formed a circle around the core. Their hands joined as they opened their minds to each other. The connection was unlike anything Hannah had ever experienced. She could feel every thought, every emotion, every memory of her fellow humans. Their pain and loss, their hopes and dreams, their unshakable determination to protect the innocent. The bond with Theresith expanded to include them all, creating a network of consciousness that spanned species and worlds. Together, they reached for the gate's controls. The psychic backlash was immediate and devastating. Several of the awakened humans collapsed, blood streaming from their eyes and ears. But the others held on, their combined will forcing the ancient controls to respond. The Void Gate shuddered. As its energy flow reversed, instead of draining life force from the captured psychics, it began returning it, amplified by the collective power of the awakened humans. The effect was beyond anything they had hoped for, the wave of life energy that burst from the gate did not just free the captured beings. It spread across the galaxy like a ripple in a pond, touching every world, every species, every living thing. For those who were compatible, it awakened abilities they had never known they possessed. For others, it simply brought a sense of peace and hope that had been missing for far too long. The Vorthek fleet, caught in the wave's path, found their mental control technology useless. Their slaves and servants began to rebel, their artificial loyalty dissolved by the touch of true freedom. Within hours, the mighty Vorthek Empire began to collapse from within, but the cost was enormous. Hannah felt her consciousness fragmenting. Under the strain, her sense of self dissolving into the vast network of awakened minds. She was dying, she realized, her individual identity being consumed by the collective power she had unleashed. "No," Thyrsis said, his ancient will holding her together. "You are not allowed to die, little sister. The galaxy still needs you." With strength she did not know she possessed, the great dragon pulled Hannah back from the brink. The other awakened? Humans did the same, each one anchoring her to reality with their shared memories and emotions. She was not just Hannah Kim anymore. She was part of something larger, something that would endure long after her individual life had ended. When the energy wave finally subsided, the void gate was dark and dead, its terrible purpose finally ended. The captured psychics were free, their minds healed by the same power that had once enslaved them. And across the galaxy a new age was beginning. The Vorthek Empire was finished, its leaders either dead or stripped of their ability to control. Others, the Galactic Confederation, humbled by what they had witnessed, offered humanity full membership and equal status. But Hannah had other plans. 5 years later, she stood on the observation deck of New Sanctuary, the space station that served as headquarters for the Galactic Alliance. The old Confederation was gone, replaced by a new organization based on cooperation and mutual respect. Humans served alongside dozens of other species, their unique abilities making them natural mediators and peacekeepers. "Do you ever regret it?" asked Soman, who now served as the Alliance's Minister of Awakened Affairs. "Giving up a normal life for all this responsibility?" Hannah smiled, watching as ships from across the galaxy docked at the station. Each one carried beings who had been touched by the awakening, who had discovered abilities they never knew they possessed. The wave from the Void Gate had changed everything, creating a galaxy where cooperation was not just possible but natural. "I never had a normal life," she said. "From the moment I found Thyrsis in that wreckage, I was destined for something different." We all were. Through their bond, she felt the great dragon's amusement. He was old now, even by Drakmori standards, but the connection they shared would endure long after his physical form had faded. The awakened humans would carry on his legacy, along with the legacy of the first ones and every species that had ever dreamed of a better future. In the distance, a new ship was approaching. Its hull bore the markings of a human colony world, and Hannah could sense the young awakened beings aboard. Children who would grow up in a galaxy where their abilities were celebrated, not feared, where they would never have to hide what they were or apologize for their potential. The Age of Awakening had transformed the galaxy, but it was just the beginning. Somewhere among the stars, other crises waited, other challenges that would require the combined efforts of all free beings. And when those challenges came, humanity would be ready. They had learned the most important lesson of all, that strength came not from domination, but from connection. Not from conquest, but from compassion. And that sometimes the smallest gesture of kindness could change the fate of everything. The little girl who had offered water to a dying dragon had become the architect of a new galactic civilization, and her story was far from over.